In the movie, the prayer scene, where Ricky Bobby is praying a little bit of Jesus, a little bit of Jesus, a little bit of 8 pound Jesus, can't even move her arms around by herself. I love that. And he starts giving this image of Jesus, and they're like, you know, you can pray to the adult Jesus too. You don't have to pray to little baby Jesus. Like, I'm the one doing the prayer, I'm going to pray to little baby Jesus. You can pray to adult bearded Jesus if you like. I'm going to pray to little baby Jesus. That's his preferred vision of Jesus. I really like this kind of maverick, outlaw, risk-taking, scandalous, revolutionary Jesus. I really like that image of Jesus because it kind of fits the kind of guy I would like to be. Not necessarily who I am. I'm a father of 4 and kind of lame, but I would like to be, you know, kind of, James Dean, I'm a rebel, you know. I'd like to be that kind of guy, and Jesus was. I like to follow that. And Jesus was, we talked about it last night, he was scandalous, and he was perfectly scandalous, because he was perfectly holy. He was in a completely right relationship with God. And he said, you know, I don't do anything unless I see the Father doing it. So he wasn't waking up in the morning going, you know what, I'm going to screw with people's heads today. You know, he was God. He could really mess with people's heads. And he did, but he didn't just go, oh, it's for fun. You know, just for kicks, I'm going to turn you into wine. You know, he didn't do that. He could have. But he didn't. He only did what the Father showed him to do, and so he was scandalous because it was a world that wasn't used to that. It was a world that had said no to God. And so when Jesus was acting out in this way, he was saying yes to God, and that just looked weird and scandalous. And you'll notice that all the times that he kind of takes risks and does shocking things and scandalous things, he's doing it because he's doing it out of love and blessing somebody who's hurting. Always. That's what he's doing. And I think it's really important. So he was perfectly scandalous. I'd say, you know, that guy I was telling you about in the church who took off all his clothes and his shoes and did some circuits, you know? He was imperfectly scandalous. He wasn't blessing anybody else. Jesus was blessing people. So I think that's an important affirmation to remember. So we're talking about risk. There's a different kind of risk, which I think a lot of you guys will be somewhat familiar with. How many people in this room, and don't talk please, just put up your hand, how many people in this room have ever asked somebody out on a date? Doesn't it suck? Now, normally, traditionally, this is falling on the head of the guys, okay? And this is what you're doing when you're asking somebody out. You're going like this. Here's my heart. If you want, you can rip it out and stomp on it. Please don't. That's essentially what you're doing when you're asking somebody out. And how many people, you don't have to put up your hands if you like, but just kind of, have had their hearts ripped out. Ah! Yeah, you people. How many people have done that to somebody? Yeah. It's a risk. You're laying yourself wide open. I like you. You're a loser. I have to say that I've never ever been turned down for a date. I've only ever had 2 people in my life. Never ever been turned down. It's adding 1,000. Amazing. Now, if you think that asking somebody on a date is opening yourself up and being vulnerable, try asking them to marry you. I would like to spend the rest of my life with you. Ooh, that's dangerous. That's big time. I met my wife, she wasn't my wife yet, I met my wife on that path right over there. Better. I met her over there. We were both working at camp. She was the laundry person and the tuck lady, and I was the pot scrubber. They had a list, like a pyramid of all the responsibilities, and right at the bottom, even underneath like the dish jockeys, pot scrubber. Right at the bottom, that was me. It's alright? It's alright. I was very lonely. I was 15, she was 17, which means I rule! Awesome. She was like, you know when you go to camp and you have a list of people, I don't know if you've had this, but especially when you're working at camp, you get a list of people who are coming, you kind of make check marks. Yeah, I think I probably could. She might just take me, and I think I might like to. Well, I saw her name on the list, and I'm like, way out of my league. No chance. Not a possibility. I'd love to, but not gonna happen. Right? Well, it did happen. It was amazing. We fell deeply, deeply in like. Right? I was smitten. Absolutely smitten. I was in deep smitten. Right? She was amazing. We So we started dating, and it continued after camp. It's one of those camp romances that works. And she lived in Victoria, and I lived in Vancouver. And I was 15, and she was 17, and we somehow made it work. We go and we visit each other. And 5 years later, I brought her back up to camp in the summer. And I had a special day planned for her. She had no idea what was coming. And we kind of spent the day going around, visiting different parts of the camp. It meant a lot to us. And over where the basketball courts are now, there used to be this white chapel. And I made sure that that white chapel was unlocked and there was a piano in there. And I took her in there, and I sat her down, I sat up, and I started playing a song that I'd learned. And I started singing this song to her. And it's called True Companion. Oh, how smooth. And so, and, the words are pretty obvious, so she's got an idea what's coming. And then I said, okay, Sheree, I want you to go down to the beach and go and sit on the log where I asked you out. And I'll come meet you there. So she went on, she's kind of crying. She walks down there. And I went over to my tent, and I got out my Batman costume. First movie we ever saw was Batman Returns. And it was a kid's Batman costume. It was tight. And I snuck down past the trailers, and she was sitting on my log. And I said, Sheree, don't turn around. I've got a couple shocking things to say to you. So first off, you know me as ordinary, everyday, average student Aaron. But at night, I fight crime. I'm Batman. At which point she turned around and saw me in my kid's Batman mask and my utility belt. And just was like, this was not what I was expecting. And I said, the other shocking thing I want to say to you, and I used the same words I used to ask her out 5 years ago. And she was crying and laughing, and it took her about 3 minutes. And she said yes. Now again, let me remind you. See, I tell the story with the song for the girls and the Batman costume for the boys. No, she still thinks I'm Batman. Now, I did say how far out of my league she is. She's amazing. She's not only amazingly hot, she's not only the mother of my 4 kids. She's incredible. She is miles out of my league. She's 7 months pregnant. This is how cool she is. She went into a crack den to go and save a prostituted girl from addiction and poison and dealers. And she went in there and took her out and brought her back home. She takes our kids around. She goes knocking door to door in slum hotels. This is how cool she is, right? She is awesome, miles out of my league. And I know that some of her friends, when they found out that she was dating me, and later when they found out she was going to marry me, they're thinking, what are you doing? He's a loser. It's okay, I'm okay with it. It's all right. It's all right. I know that that's sort of what they're thinking, and I know I'm married way out of my league. And I sometimes, well, actually, most days, every day I thank God that she's with me. And I wonder why. You know, why? Why would you love me? I don't necessarily always understand that. And I have to confess that as I've been reading through the Bible, I come to the same question quite a bit. Well, we know, we learned about yesterday, that we all accept now that Jesus came and did what he did. That he was a revolutionary, that he came down to do this stuff for us. I think we accept that. But we haven't yet dealt with the issue, why? Why do we do that? There are some beautiful images in Scripture, in the Old Testament and the New Testament, where God paints this picture where Israel, his people, are his bride.